in here, saying like, the Chinese sensation, if you will, national title game is here. But here we are. Even Kill, Virginia born. He is representing New Jerusalem. Dedicated veteran and father.
I'm saying fresh fade.
Fresh fade with the DeJounte Murray part, as he put it. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's more AZ than me. You know what I'm saying? But don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
You know what I'm saying? Mr. Logic. Mr. Logic. You know what I'm saying? I am your unorthodox statistician going so left that you thought I was southpaw. And regardless of what you may have heard in the past, regardless of what you think, I will not, I repeat, I will not be apologizing like Jermaine Cole.
Did he really apologize?
Yes, he did.
I saw an article that said something about it. I was like, for what?
So do me a favor out there, y'all. Like, subscribe, rate us, share, all that good stuff. Tell Granny we said, hey, Sports Reports is ordered. Starts right about now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't believe he apologized.
You are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports as ordered. Yeah, he got up there. He said it wasn't feeling right in his soul and in his spirit, and that he loves Kendrick. To Pimp a Butterfly is one of the greatest albums ever, and like the responses online, people were talking violently and all this kind of stuff, and it just didn't sit right with him. So he wanted to end it before it went much further and not disrupt his peace anymore. You know what I'm saying?
So goofy.
So
these are so goofy.
Well, this is my problem, and I know we didn't even plan to talk about this, so I'm gonna just say this real quick and we'll get right into it. But like, it's one of those things, right? You can't be sitting up here talking about I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. When I look at Drake, I see the Spider-Man meme, and then it's like, it's time to show and prove, and it's like, nah, I don't feel like it. Because I truly do think that he has an argument of like, I'm the best rapper right now. He's in the conversation. You could make the argument, but Kendrick just happens to be the better artist, who does the other things outside of just the rhyme spitting. You know what I mean? So like bar for bar, yeah, he's right there with Kendrick. You know what I mean? But
I liked his album. I listened to it at the barbershop. I was in the barbershop for probably about half an hour before I got in the chair, give or take, and I was in the chair for like an hour or so. So I listened to it one full time all the way through, and then a guy came in after me while I was in the chair, and he wanted to hear a couple of tracks over. So I probably listened to like a full time, and then listened to it again, and I listened to it later at night. I like it. I like I'm Ready 24, because that's one of my favorite beats. I wish Jewels was on it though, even though J. Cole did the Jewels flow. I wish he was on it. But yeah, I'm gonna put hashtag J. Cole since we're talking about it. Maybe we'll get some more followers.
Well, I might going off of the name of his album, I might delete it now.
It wasn't, like I said, the album was dope.
No, the album was dope, but
I don't like the apology. Seems weird though.
Well, I mean, even with 7 Minute Drill, like when the beat change came on, like I was ready, and then body bag. I was like, okay, and then I was just like, oh, you gonna let this rocket fly, huh? But then after that, it was just like whatever. But anyway, tonight, y'all, we're going to talk about the move sending shockwaves around the college basketball world. Coach Calipari finally doing the right thing and getting out of Lexington like he should have 3 years ago when I originally wanted him to. And then we're just going to have a conversation about college basketball in general, to include Caitlin Clark, the Final Four, so on and so forth. So let's get this thing started. Yeah, so I wanted Cal gone 3 years ago. You know why? Because I didn't want this day to come.
What day is that?
The day where he leaves because he hates Kentucky and Kentucky hates him. So originally when Coach Cal came to Kentucky, I was excited. This was the guy that coached Marcus Camby. This was the guy that coached Tyreek Evans and Derrick Rose. Hey, bring that talent to Kentucky. ×2, ×3. John Wall, Bledsoe, DeMarcus Cousins, so on and so forth. Karl Anthony Towns. Devin Booker was coming off the bench. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. So it was a good time to be a Kentucky fan until Coach Cal got it twisted. And I know that he was trying to say the right things, like we had the year where I think it was 5 or 6 players drafted in the first round, to include Daniel Orton, who averaged 3 points off the bench. And he said, this is like winning a national champ. No, it is not like winning a national championship. Winning a national championship is like winning a national championship. Kentucky is second all time in national titles at 8. Side note, it's crazy as hell that if UConn wins this game tonight, they're going to pass Duke in national championships and tie North Carolina, and they did it in 25 years.
There's a big conversation that we get into later as far as like where you go, why you go there. Yeah.
But like Cal, so when Cal came in, I think fans are fans, right? Fans aren't rational. So a lot of
the word fan is short for fanatic.
Yeah, so a lot of fans when Cal came in thinking of the talent that he could bring to Kentucky, people were like, yo, we catching UCLA. Because right now, UCLA has an 11-8 advantage. So, people were like, yo, Cal's coming through. But then he let Duke come through, take his program, the one and done, and then they won 2 titles off of it, and he only won 1. So at this point, it's time to switch it up a little bit. And he was unwilling to do so. So we talked the other day, before this even happened, we talked about the teams that came out of Kentucky's region when they had easy regions or top seeds in their regions fell, and they had pathways to walk to the Final Four, and they couldn't do it. So I wanted him gone 3 years ago. So this predates St. Peter's. So I wasn't reacting to, hey, St. Peter's beat us as a 15 seed. I wasn't reacting to, losing to Oakland and now you got to go. I saw the writing on the wall. Like I always say, I talk to my 8-year son as if he's 11 because I don't want to have certain conversations with him at 11 if I could nip it now.
Facts.
So in 2019, Mitch Barnhart, who should be gone as well, decided to give Calipari a lifetime contract. And I think for a dude that hasn't made the Final Four since 2015.
Real quick. What's the capacity of fans in Rump Arena?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Well, because I'm pretty sure Calipari keeps that packed. That's why he got a lifetime contract. But keep going.
No, definitely. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the point being is that I understand how hard it is to win a title because, it's one and done. Tom Izzo hasn't won since 2000. By the way, if Purdue wins tonight, that's the first Big Ten title since 2000. So I get how hard it is to win a national title. But when you come in with this talent every year, I don't think it's too much for me to ask you that if you're here for, say, 15 years. I don't think 2 titles is too much with all the talent that you've brought in.
Realistically, if you should have 5. 4 or 5. You should have been a 5 title.
But I'm trying to be rational. Because
33%.
I know how hard it is.
Number one, look at the NBA talent that he had on his roster. It's one thing to be like, oh, you're a college coach, you should get 2 out of 15 years. But he had lottery picks coupled with lottery picks in the same
right.
introduction.
Now what's my new saying? You got to be loyal to your logic so that your logic can be loyal to you. So with that being said, it's hard to say that when I look at somebody like Coach K, who was at Duke, for what, 40 years or whatever it was, and he only got 5. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I say you should have been a 5 champion. Not
Oh,
necessarily
okay,
win.
okay, I
Like
got you.
it's a
Yeah,
one and done. It's a one and done tournament. So it's a very tough tournament. But Coach K, not only did he, I think he coached in 11, so it's like every 4 years or so he was in
right,
one. Every
right.
three and a quarter. Multiple Elite Eights, multiple Final Fours, won 5 championships. Iconic NBA players came through his program.
How
Then he
long?
coached. Then he coached the Olympic team and that whole program. So he shows that he does have that kind of cachet. With Calipari, it might be a situation where his charisma got him the players, and the players' natural ability got the team over the hump.
Like, how long has Danny Hurley been at UConn now?
I don't know. I've done the research. I'm
I
gonna
would say
guess
4 to 5. I would say this is
6,
year 4. I would say this
less
is
than
year
6.
4. Yeah, like year 4 or 5. He had 2 first round exits, and now he's in back-to-back national title games. So he's already did in about a quarter of the time. He's going to pass you if they win tonight. You know what I mean? So like, and you're at Kentucky. You know what I mean? You don't get to do this. So that's where I'm looking at it from the standpoint of. I wasn't looking at it from the standpoint of you didn't win a national title recently, so you gotta go. I was looking at it from the standpoint of I think he hasn't been the same since they lost that 2015 Final Four when they were 38-0. Karl Anthony Towns, Tyler Ulis, Devin Booker, the Harrison twins.
Maybe he has been the same. Maybe the fact that he had that team and the team just I've can see a situation where I think the Final Four teams that made their run last year, I believe they got there not because of overwhelming talent, but because like an intrinsic belief in everybody in the room. Coach believed in player, player believed in coach, player believed in fellow player, and you can run with that. I think Calipari goes, I'm gonna put all these great rappers on a mix track, on the same track. But the beat is, I don't really like it, but they're so good lyrically, they're gonna put out a hot track. But if you think about like all about the Benjamins, the Locks were still coming with it, way and like, but that track, soon as it comes on, it's hot. But
You,
all the DJ Khaled tracks, there's a lot of hot artists. Do you really think about them as much? I think it's more
you
that's kind of.
know what you just made me think of?
I'm listening.
The first time I watched Grown Ups. Where like you got all these comedians, they're all funny, but you got to be able to showcase all of them. And you got to find a way to make it even, I guess, like where Chris Rock doesn't have too much of the funny that Kevin James is overshadowed, or like
Kevin James doesn't do too much slapstick, and David Spade doesn't do too much off the script stuff.
right. You
Yeah.
got to, and that's part of what, because Cal is like a real, he's an enigma. Like,
I don't know if he's a coach. It's more of he's
he's a motivator.
a
He's a
figurehead.
mentor. He's a mentor, or he's like he's the dad. You know what I mean? Whereas like somebody else is probably doing the X's and O's.
The
Like
assistant coaches.
sort of like Dabo Sweeney in a certain way at Clemson. Like he's not calling plays. But he's that father figure of I'm gonna hold you accountable, like doing the head coach things. Whereas so Calipari is doing the I'm managing personalities thing,
Calipari is out there shaking hands and kissing babies
Yeah, that too.
to get recruits there.
That too.
And then figuring you're 6'11, you're 6'10, you can play defense, you have abnormally long arms. I'm gonna put you guys on the floor. And when the time comes, your athleticism and the fact that you're better than Oakland is going to win us the game.
Right.
Not adjusted to the fact that it was like, yo, let me just double this dude that's gone 10 for 20 from three.
And that's why I said if you go back and look at the losses going back to Memphis, the tournament losses, the common theme is free throw shooting and your best shooter having an all-time bad game. Not just a bad game, but your best shooter going like last year. Antonio Reeves went something like 1 for 15 or something, and Grady Edwards went 1 for 9 against St. Peter's. Like
and as a coach, you should be like, you know what? My best shooter's having an off night. How do I get him a look at the rim? How do I get him to the free throw line? You got to look at him and say, listen, dog, you have an off night.
Right.
Y'all seeing your man have an off night. This is what we're going to do. We're going to hit the pin down over here. I want you to get a back cut, get the layup. I need you to see the ball go through the hoop. That way you take it off his mind. Like, yo, I'm having an off night, but the coach is going to hook me up. Sometimes It's just, I think that's the level of coaching that you come to.
But then the other problem is going back to the grown-ups reference is that you're bringing in all these people, Justin Edwards, Reed Shepard, DJ Wagner, so on and so forth, Aaron Bradshaw. You're bringing in all these people that need minutes or that want minutes because they're trying to showcase themselves for the NBA. You promised them whatever you promised them. So now you're tinkering with your lineups because instead of being able to put the best team on the floor that can put you in position to win, you probably made promises to these people's camps that they're going to play this many minutes a game, or, like instead of playing this junior who provides something different, you got to put Justin Edwards back in the game because he's the top 5 recruit or whatever he was.
And I'm pretty sure that's a delicate balance for a college coach. But I think aside from that is like,
but I think
if I put you out there, I want to put you in a position of where you're going to make the team successful. And that's,
but I think he has it on a different level.
It's like playing spades and you got 7 in the possible in your hand. You should get that 7 in the possible.
But that's the problem.
You shouldn't be fighting for 6 with 3 cards left. Like,
but I think that's the problem is that if you have 4 of those guys, you can designate one as your 6th man that closes games. So he still gets 25 minutes, but you're staggering a little bit. Like 3 of them are on the floor at the same time and he finishes the game with them. But when you're doing it with 7 or 8 of them, you know what I mean?
It's like remember the Portland Trailblazers, probably early 2000s, around the
Trailblazers,
when they had a starting lineup of guys on their bench.
Right.
They had like Greg Anthony, Rod Strickland, Pippen, Rasheed Wallace. They had all these guys, and it's like, you guys have a starting lineup on the bench, and you can't really get that many guys in rotation in a 48-minute game. It's like an embarrassment of riches.
Right.
And I think he just kind of got into that whole mode of recruiting. My recruits will bail me out. If you look around Rump Arena, successful. Drake's there all the time. Yeah, that midnight madness. It was like, that's the first midnight madness I can recall seeing on TV. Whereas like the students came out, the players came out, the smoke machines, they're shooting threes at midnight at Rump Arena. The fact that I know Rump Arena is like, I think a lot of that can get to your head, especially when you're in that rarefied air that Calipari's in, to where I don't know how many voices you hear, or how many people within the organization that you might, for lack of a better word, outrank you listen to. So, I mean, that's like I said.
Well, that's the other problem. For a lot of the time at Kentucky, he brought in yes men, people like Tony Barbie.
You can't have that.
Bruiser Flint. You know what I'm saying? Like dudes that basically were on because of him. You know what I mean? Like the yes men. Like they had their own careers prior to him, but they weren't necessarily the most successful.
And
he kept them around.
That's the strangest like phenomena I see, especially with men, because growing up, especially young in the Air Force, when I went to Germany, like I dealt with a circle of people. It was pretty dope. And I remember my dad telling me something before I got to Germany. He was like, listen, son, you only got 5 seatbelts in the car. You can't have them all loaded up all the time. Like, you got 5 seatbelts. You can't have 6, 7, 8 friends. You can't have that many people around you just absorbing your time and absorbing energy because they get in the way.
Right.
Like, you can't go out 5 deep. Let's, for anybody watching, you can't go out 5 of y'all. It's like, what if you meet some women? Where you gonna put them? If your car loaded with dudes and they ain't got a car, where you gonna put them? I know that sounds real superficial, but the point was like, you can't have that many people around you because it's just like that many people don't need to be in your space. Like, you don't need that many people in your entourage. And I think sometimes I would rather someone argue with me intellectually versus agree with me to appease me. Because I can't grow if you agree with me and appease me. I
Right.
can't, like we talked about the LSU coach, and we'll get back to Calipari. I was saying, I think I texted you in like the third quarter, at least the group, the hot box, shout out to the hot box. I'm like, why is Haley still on Caitlin with like 3 or 4 minutes left in the third? It's like, this is not a matchup you want. Have her stick to another girl that's her size and put one of these long athletic 2s or 3s on
Yeah, she
Caitlin.
could have been guarding Gabby Marshall or something.
Exactly. She could have been guarding somebody that stands in the corner because obviously it was in her head that like everybody wants 22 to shoot. She's out there playing for her life, and then she comes down, throw a bad pass, and she gets taken out of the game.
And
So it's like
just going back to next year, 22 wanted you. You know what I mean?
called you out. She called you out last year when she beat you, and
Yeah,
then came back and did it again. So it's like it's just one of those things where
yeah.
you need somebody that's gonna be able to whisper in your ear. That's why you can't keep that many people because like man, I can't. Ooh, that was a bad foul. You can't have that many people, in
Am
your
I ahead
ear.
of
But you
you, or
gotta have a couple.
are you ahead of me, or am I ahead of you? I'm at halftime already.
I was looking at the replay montage from halftime, so I'm at a
Okay.
commercial right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 36-30 UConn out there, ladies and gentlemen. We're at halftime in the national title game on UConn's attempt to repeat Purdue's attempt to win their first national title. But yeah, back to Calipari. Like as I look at this, he had Bruiser Flint, who was with him at UMass, went on to coach at Drexel, did nothing, came back to Cal. Tony Barbie went down to UTEP, came along, joined Cal at Memphis, did nothing, so on and so forth for a lot of years. And, but going forward, I know Kentucky fans, a lot of Kentucky fans since I don't even know, 2015, since they lost in the Final Four, have been wanting Billy Donovan to come through, to take over. I think that Danny Hurley's going to get the first call just off of diligence, and we got to do this. Scott Drew at Baylor is going to be the second call if Hurley says no, which I expect him to. Drew turned down Louisville just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And then from there, who knows? If it were me and I was trying to look at the future, I like Todd Golden at Florida. If you're trying to get the splashy name, you might as well try to see what Bruce Pearl, what his interest level is, because he just seems like a Kentucky coach to me, or like not necessarily a Kentucky coach, but one of those big school, non-Duke Carolina, but like a big school
He's
coach.
not a Drexel guy.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, that's the way that I look at it. That's my take on it. But I want to warn Coach Calipari right now. I want to warn him right now because I do care about you, Cal. I'm not going to forget about the good times that you brought into my life. I know that things didn't end the right way, but I want you to be happy. But this is my advice for you. Don't you go down to Arkansas trying to do the same damn thing that you was doing at Kentucky, because while Arkansas is not Kentucky, they think they are. They are
I don't
passionate.
think so, man.
They are
I don't think
passionate.
so. I
They
think they'll be happy to have eyes. I think
hey,
they'll
you
be
gotta
happy to
remember.
get people in town.
You
Like,
gotta
keep in mind,
remember.
like those little restaurants thrive on these kind of athletic towns coming in. We talked about with like a military reference back when we were in Korea 2012, 2013, and Japan was locked down. And guys couldn't go off base because of all the criminal behavior and everything that was going on there, all the anti-military integrity behavior that was going on socially. They locked them down on base. Got people who retired and opened up restaurants and bars and places like that in Japan. They went out of business because no one was going there. Now you get a guy like Calipari in those restaurants, those $6 sandwiches, they're $9.99 starting next season, and they go sell a lot of them, and that's gonna be that'll be enough for 2 or 3 years, maybe before.
Well, see where I was going with that is before this year, Coach Musselman, Eric Musselman, took Arkansas to back-to-back Elite Eights. Arkansas has won a national title in the last 30 years or so.
Shout out Nolan Richardson.
So Arkansas views themselves
meanest hairline in basketball.
Yes. So Arkansas views themselves probably a few pegs higher than they should, considering, the success after Nolan Richardson.
Do you know any Arkansas fans personally though, or that's just something you just based off of other fan bases?
Just from fan bases, reading message boards and as a Kentucky fan, they're in the same conference, interacting with a few online. They view so basically, if
that's
you look,
the pig suey, right?
Yeah, it's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. If you look at like the SEC titles in basketball, like the Kentucky has 49 basketball titles in the SEC. Number 2 is Tennessee at 12. You know what I mean? But Arkansas has won a national title. Tennessee's never made a Final Four. Alabama didn't make a Final Four till this year. Auburn made a Final Four 5 years ago, but nobody knows anything about Auburn basketball except for Charles Barkley. Mississippi State made a Final Four back in '96. Ole Miss, they have Chris Beard from Texas, the biter. He bit his girl and all that, ended up at Ole Miss. And you know what I mean? He doesn't, register. Ole Miss doesn't register at all. LSU basketball is Shaq and Chris Jackson before he became Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. So when you look around the SEC to Arkansas, it's like, yo, we're next after Kentucky. We have the national title. We have back-to-back Elite Eights in the last 3 years. You know what I mean? So like Calipari's coming down there. And, oh, by the way, you better be bringing some of those Kentucky recruits with you too. Because they had Carter Knox, Kevin Knox's little brother. They got Quaintance. They got Booger Flan.
They're getting the Boozer twins.
No, they're next year. They're next year.
Next year, okay.
Yeah, but Flan put up 17 in the McDonald's game the other day. So Arkansas, guess what? Or Cal, guess what? You better bring them to Arkansas with you.
All right, now let's dive into the theory you gave me earlier about where the money's coming from.
Well, yeah. So you got Walmart up in Bentonville, the founders and everything. You got Jerry Jones, they're Arkansas's probably most famous alum.
Oil and cowboy money.
Yep. You got Tyson's Chicken, and from what I was reading, apparently Cal is very, very, very close with the Tyson's Chicken guy. So like the revenue is gonna be coming in, you know what I mean, in a way that maybe Eric Musselman couldn't get it because, to your point, he's not the salesman that Calipari is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't have that charisma or that when I speak, everybody's going to listen.
You'd be surprised how far charisma can get you. I like personally
shaking your yacht for the Elizabeth, right? Whatever they saying.
I mean, like sometimes it's just a matter of. I had a friend of mine give me a book. We were flying to Vegas one time. He had a book in his bag, and I pulled it out, and it said, "How to Get People to Like You." And that book had a lot of good information. One excerpt that he showed me was to say "I" less in the conversation. So if you have the capabilities of mastering that conversation, I saw another guy who's a professor or some kind of person in conversations. Instead of saying "yeah, but" in a conversation, say "yes and." So if you understand that kind of premise to keep the conversation moving forward, you can keep people on your team, even if you don't fully agree with them.
Mr.
It
Yeah,
just
but huh?
I
Yeah,
try,
I'm pretty
yo,
sure you said
what
that
I'm
to me
saying.
27 times today.
Yeah, today, because me and you were going back and forth. I wasn't trying to get you online with me. We were going back and forth. Yes. And I understand that I did that. And every time that I did it, I thought to myself, if this was a conversation with someone who was trying to dismiss me, like
Right.
you were trying to get rid of me, like, I don't want you on the podcast, I would say yes, and I would like to know, hearing what you said here. And he would say, instead of yeah, but I do this, yes, and
Right.
what can I have done? So the entire conversation steers in one way. I think Calipari has that kind of charisma
Well, yeah, he's a snake
that
oil
will work.
salesman.
Listen, the Emperor's new clothes.
You know what I mean? And also, the last piece of advice I got for Coach Cal: stop letting these players hold you hostage. Because when I go back to 2 years ago, you had both Antonio Reeves and Oscar Shibwe basically wait until the very last day to decide to come back to Kentucky, when you could have been in the portal doing whatever and XYZ. Like, what if they would have decided to leave and there wouldn't have been any portal left for you? So, so
It
these
might have been a good thing. He might have been able. He might have had to like coach up a couple more players.
maybe, but the point being is that one fan base got tired of your shit real quick. You know what I'm saying? You're 65 years old. Switch up your style. Get some dudes in there that'll tell you no, and live and have these last 6 to 10 years of your career be better than the last 6 to 10
Get a
years.
quality, quote unquote. We use this in resiliency instructions, resiliency training here as an Air Force retiree, but I was a resiliency instructor. Your board of directors,
Right.
the people you can go to in times of crisis, or the people that have autonomous access to you. Those are the people you put in that rarefied air. Those are the people you listen to. Get people in there that won't always agree with you. You don't need a bunch of yes men,
Right.
because you don't need to hear yes to everything. Like if I
Right.
told you I want to jump off my roof with a parachute, you might want to say, "Hey, dog, there's only two stories.
You
It
already
might not
know.
open."
You already know why you're saying yes. You know what I mean? Like, you already have your reasons for why you feel the way you feel.
I need to
So you need
give
a
me something different.
counterpoint. You need a
Yeah, give me
counterpoint.
a counterpoint.
Speaking of counterpoints, so Mr. Logical and I earlier,
Had
had
a
a
great
screaming.
conversation. We're
We had
gonna
a
rehash
screaming
here.
match. We had a screaming match.
We yell a little bit.
We did our version of Trump versus Biden. As come on, man.
I was getting my Trump on.
Where we were talking about college basketball in general, because I started off the conversation. So we'll get to the other part, but I want to start off with this. I started off the conversation because I was disappointed that America took us back to the 1960s this weekend. Angel Reese is gone. You got people like Acho out here, saying all the things. And then you got all the white people in their Conor McGregor corner and all the black people in their Floyd Mayweather corner. Probably 80% of them did not watch one women's college basketball game until the tournament, or even till the Sweet 16 or the Elite
Best
Eight.
case scenario, they watch highlights and chopped up videos
And
posted on
and and
Instagram.
literally, Angel Reese, regardless of what she has said in the past, regardless of what she has done online, that is a child. Caitlin Clark is a kid. Y'all out here calling her a man, talking about how she's choking, all this kind of stuff, and how she's this and she's that. She didn't get what Caitlin or what Angel got. I guess we're 5 years old. They started it, right? So, as I'm
I'll
watching,
rubber your glue.
yeah. So as I'm watching these games, it's literally like, I don't even know. Like, I stepped into segregation, and it was like, it took me back because me and Mr. Logical had a conversation, and I had a conversation on the hot box before about how I feel black people dismiss Jokic and they dismiss Luka because they're great players, but it looks different, or they feel that the media is giving them extra attention that they don't deserve. So that's how people, I guess, feel about Caitlin Clark, from what I'm gathering. But for me, the essence of it boils down to is we took over basketball and y'all want the great white hope to restore it back for you.
Yo, the crazy thing about, and it's something I love about, this sounds arrogant because I'm saying I a lot. This is something I love about being me. Because I was very fortunate. Shout out to my late mother, Iris Fretley. My pops, his birthday's tomorrow. I'm going to hang out with him this
Happy
weekend.
birthday, Pops.
His decision, or their decision, to join in marriage, and my dad was in the Army. My sister was already born. He came home, and my mom was like, listen, we can't, like, they're from Virginia, like, we can't stay here. Like, you already were gone. You already saw what it was like out there. You have to know it's better than what's going on here. Let's keep going. See how far we can take this. I was born a year after they were married. I went to Germany, North Virginia, back to Germany, North Virginia, and back and forth between. So I was exposed. And I didn't even think about it being exposed. I just was able to see different cultures, different people. My friends were white. My friends were Puerto Rican. My friends were Mexican. My baseball team was here. Like, I got to see the world. So I got to see it through so many different lenses prior to the internet, way before the internet. And what I learned was that it's way more beneficial to have a broadened perspective on the things that guide you. And I feel like people reverted back to this antiquated ideology of, oh, black versus white, credit versus, because let's keep it a beam. Dwayne Wade probably didn't get as much credit for the championship of Miami as LeBron did, but because Dwayne Wade's black, it's cool that LeBron got all the credit. But if Luka has a great season, or Jokic wins MVP a couple times and then won Finals MVP, he earned it. He won these awards that are voted on, and then he earned
And
it.
spoiler alert, he about to win MVP again.
And he's possibly going to win MVP again. But once again, it's not as if he's out there averaging 11, 7, and 6, and he's just on TV and he's doing a great interview. He's playing basketball. Everybody else get the same ball rolled out, same referees rotating in and out. So having that perspective and understand, like, listen, it's not, some things are black and white. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, no, nothing's black and white. Some things are. But everything you're guiding light does not need to be black and white. What Caitlin Clark was doing for college basketball, if you change her skin tone, would you have a complaint? If you can honestly say, I would complain about the way she yelled at the refs, I wouldn't. Referees are not good every single game. We see it at every level. I know anyone who listens to this podcast who has a kid that plays sports is wondering, like, ref, how'd you not see that face mask? How'd you not see that foul? If your kid played lacrosse, how'd you not see that offsides? Whatever it is, soccer, how'd you not see the handball? Referees are not even permanent positions, and sometimes they impact the game, and sometimes a player cusses them out. Cameron Brink cussed out a referee. She's at Stanford. Angel Reese cussed out a couple of coaches and players and refs. Haley Van Lips cussed out some players. LeBron called a ref a BAN. It all happens. Everyone gets cussed out. Spike Lee and Reggie Miller are going back and forth in the sideline. It's a passionate sport. I expect you to be passionate, but as an observer of the sport, you have to be rational and understanding that what she was doing on the court is more Dame than any other female you can compare it to. Those shots, that's the Steph Dame sidestep 3-pointers, that what she was doing, women weren't doing. And she was carrying a team that didn't have as many blue chip athletes as other ones. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. You can tell that at some point it was going to get figured out, because it was the same thing I talked about Oregon. They let one guy shoot the ball and the other guy get the rebound and get dunks. Eventually, Like, and the game against Creighton. Eventually, the coach was like, "Well, just let him shoot, guard everybody else. We'll get the rebound. We'll go back up the court. He's gonna get tired. He's just shooting the ball out." So Caitlin Clark was shooting these shots that we knew were going to be deep threes. So let's put our best lengthy, rangy, athletic defender on her because Don Staley's a good coach. She understands that concept of like how you neutralize the best player when the other four players almost exclusively depend on her to be the catalyst for their offense.
Yeah, and it worked because she went 3 for 11 when she was guarded by Raven Johnson. You know,
And Raven was pissed from last year. So you
yeah,
got that motivation. You probably been pumping in her ear for 11 months.
right.
Remember when she weighed you off last year? You gonna let her do that to you again this year? You ain't got to make a big deal about it. But she played like she had, 365 days of angst for
Yeah,
sure.
and she held her to 10 for 20, or they held her to 10 for 28. Aya was just too small. Camila Cadorso with 17 boards.
She's
You know,
LeBron's height.
as we were looking at this, I wrote this stuff down real quick. So South Carolina's bench outscored them 37-0. They won the boards 51-29, including 18-7 on the offensive glass, 30-16 in second chance points. And of course,
LSU out rebounded Iowa offensively,
yeah,
but
Angel had
LSU
20.
LSU just couldn't score. I was watching the game because I went to like a little small town and on the shore, watching, doing a little, the village stuff you do on Sundays. And I was looking at the score, and I was sitting down. We were eating lunch, and I was like, getting a 13-0 lead or 13-2 lead, it feels great until you look up and it's 13-5, 13-7, 15-9, 17. Like, you work so hard to get the lead on a team that you are, preferably the underdogs, and they just slowly. Don Staley didn't panic. I was thinking like, yo, you should probably call a timeout. She didn't panic. She just waited out. She did a sub. I think they were down maybe, if I had to guess, 12-2, maybe 13-2, and she subbed in a couple of players, a different change of pace, different energy. And then I drank my beer, ate my fish and chips, looked up, score was like 17-15. I was like, that happened super quick.
Because as the Macho Man Randy Savage told us back in the 80s, the cream rises to the top. Yeah.
She didn't panic at all.
But we were talking about this, and obviously Caitlin Clark's moving on, Angel Reese is moving on. Who's not moving on is Juju Watkins, Malaysia Fawali, and Tessa Johnson. They'll be back next year.
Flajay Johnson and her brother jumping over scores table.
so Mr. Logical and I were trying to devise plans. We both had the same thing in mind as far as we want the women's game to excel. But how do
Correct.
we get there? How do we get there? And that's where our fundamental disagreement came in on.
Oh, yeah. It was rampant. It was rabid. I loved it.
Yeah. How do we get to that point? So I'll let you start it off. And
all right. So my point, listen, this conversation came about very organically, and it didn't have. There's not a lot of research base. I'm just looking at it as a concept and a change management. Just a how do you apply and roll with the momentum that was created over the last few weeks? Because, like I said, we've been doing this show for a while, and this is probably like the third show in a row we've had a very in-depth conversation, a smart conversation about women's college basketball. And I've seen it in other podcast formats and TV show formats as well. So it's like, how do you capitalize that? So we figured that ESPN has the women's tournament. My suggestion was this. You take the top 4 to 6 teams. Mike expanded to 8. Let's say 4 to 6. Anyway, so if we go 4 to 8. With the women's game, because the top schools tend to reload every year, you don't have a lot of Cinderellas. So what you would allow yourself to do is every Tuesday, November through February, you have your top 6 teams. I say 6, that way it's not a big gap between 1 to 6. on the rotation of the television programming. So you don't have to rank them. You just put them in order alphabetically, if that's the case. But they go 1 through 6. So if UConn is playing Seton Hall November 5th, which is a Tuesday, whatever the day of the month it is, and then the next week South Carolina's playing Vanderbilt. Following week you get NC State because they were in the Final Four this year versus some school. And you do that for 6 weeks so that every single Tuesday, either leading up to the game or the results of the game, there's a conversation about women's college basketball on ESPN. And you might have to sacrifice viewership. Instead of playing the men's Indiana versus Vanderbilt game on that Tuesday, you play the women's UConn versus Seton Hall. You might get 3.5 to 4 million views for that game, but you'll get 6.5 for the men. Those two teams aren't going to be vying for the national championship on the men's side, but UConn probably will, and maybe UConn wins that game by 30. Next week is South Carolina versus Vanderbilt, the female Vanderbilt, and they win that game by 30. Instead of being like, oh my God, South Carolina beat this team by 30, UConn won, you can have a conversation of like, if these teams match up next year in the Final Four, who has a bigger shot? And then you get USC on. So every single week you're having at least the build-up conversation or the subsequent fallout aftermath conversation after the game ends. Imagine if one of them loses. So now you have this conversation in place and you get an upset and you have the conversation. Because if we think about the men's game, I'm not sure how much you and I talked about men's college basketball prior to February. Pardon me.
Well, I think
so. My thing is to figure out how do you get the women's game into conversation. Yes, you're gonna sacrifice viewership because probably the statement you're probably gonna rest with is like, I don't have a Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to carry over from today to October, right? That's an element. Like you don't have that rivalry built over.
Right. Yeah. So like I think so like I said at the start of this, we have the same goal in mind, but I think it starts more on the front side because a part of the college industry is the recruiting services, whether it's 24/7 rivals, so on and so forth. So the reason that Cooper Flagg going to Duke is so important or, so game changing is because we knew who he was 2 years ago. And we know that he's the number 1 or number 2 recruit in this class and he's going to a blue blood, whereas on the women's side, I think that we need more of that conversation of this girl coming in from high school and she's averaging 31 and 15 or whatever, and she's going to be the new star. She's being recruited by UConn, South Carolina, Tennessee, so on and so forth. And we start to follow that because with Angel and Caitlin, the problem was by the time we got to them, they were already juniors. So
yes, but in I hate to interrupt, but the women's game allows you to take your time to be inundated and like capture the career.
It does.
So getting them as juniors, we had a whole year of it. They were at the White House. We had the whole conversation about LSU and Iowa being invited by the White House to Joe Biden. I don't think any of us would have known the first lady's first name was Jill if that game didn't happen, because I wouldn't have known.
I know the president's wife's name. What you talking about on this show?
What but anyway, George W. Bush's wife's name?
Barbara.
You sure?
Yeah.
You didn't sound sure.
I'm sure. Nancy Reagan.
We know Michelle Obama. We know Nancy Reagan. The rest of them is all crapshoots. Everyone knows that.
I'm good with Barbara Bush. I'm good with the final answer being Barbara Bush.
I don't know if it was Barbara. I think that was George. Hold on, I can't remember.
Anyway, but the point being,
like Commander in Chief. I don't know his wife's name.
But the point being is that there was no buildup. Caitlyn's game just took over, and you had to pay attention to her. Angel was also social media famous in some ways, and there was a certain attention on her outside of basketball.
She became social media famous after the championship because, like I said, it was a very divisive
approach. Right. It was the same thing. The black versus white.
We started doing Twitter, and I was reading the comments. It's like, and that's when people started posting.
Like, these are kids, bro.
And Caitlin Clark was talking as much cash shit as everybody else, which is what you do in these confrontations.
Right.
If I was playing you in Madden, if I was playing you in poker, or if I was in a debate with you publicly, I'm gonna talk the same amount of shit to you if I know I'm winning. She waved off Haley Van Lith. She waved off Raven Johnson, who turned to backfire because she now beat her this year. But Caitlin Clark was doing that way before Angel Reese was like, "Give me my ring."
Right.
So I think people just kind of took that and we just ran with it. It was like a very classism-based thing.
People knew Angel Reese as the ghetto Barbie, all that stuff. Like, I knew that Angel Reese was from Baltimore, but she put that out there, and I think people started to gravitate towards her because in a way less way, because I know what people gonna say, because they hear what they think you said.
Say it in me. Let's hear it.
But she kind of had that AI to her, where like she was unapologetically who she is, representing, putting on for the hood and whatnot. Like, but she was a girl, you know what I mean? So it was different. It was accepted differently because of gender norms and societal norms. But it was the word you like to use. It was polarizing enough.
Yeah, that's my word. That's
that people latched on and had an opinion either way. So like when you get to a certain level, it don't matter if you like me or hate me. You just gotta talk about me. You know what I mean? And that's where Angel.
And you're saying that the game is lacking that.
Yes, because going into next year, right? Caitlyn's gone, Angel's gone. I believe Paige is gone, or she might come back, or she might have one more year.
I think she's in the same class as
Caitlyn.
Yeah, but she might have an injury clause.
Right. Yeah. So
unless she feels like I gotta come back for another championship title, I can't imagine that she executes that next level of eligibility.
Cardoso is gone from South Carolina. So so you got like Flo J, you got Juju Watkins. You got Full Wiley and Tessa Johnson from South Carolina. You know what I mean? But what I was asking is, who's the next? Because
you manufacture it.
Because women's college basketball is coming from a position of being behind. So in some ways, they're at that NBA point of we need a Magic and Bird. So now they've had that. But then with Caitlyn and Angel. But following them, came Bird, you had Isaiah there. I'm sorry, came Jordan, you had Isaiah there, and then you just kept
men's college basketball, as we have a mystique because of because the narrative around high school guys going to NBA didn't exist.
Right.
And I don't think that's a big thing in women's college basketball either. We're like,
no, they have to go. Women, I believe, if I remember correctly, women have to stay for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, I believe I read that the other day. They have to stay for 3 years. But the overall point being, is that we know Juju was the freshman this year that is starting out on a pace to where if she stays, she can get to that Caitlyn. She could challenge Caitlyn's record provided she stays healthy and all that.
With that being the case, you might have to get creative with your marketing. You might have to fund your marketing differently. Like I said, you might have to just bite the bullet instead of playing Indiana versus Vanderbilt's men's game.
And I'm with that.
Just play the UConn versus Seton Hall game.
The other part that I added,
and just because you're gonna make so much money off of football. I get that. I know a lot of because I remember, like, I think about this with record labels. The record labels will give you, and as far as my rudimentary knowledge of record labels and artists, you'll sign a deal for $3 million. They'll advance you $1 million, and you'll sell a record, but you as an artist only make 10 cents per record. They gave you $1 million. So you as an individual artist, Mike Wilson, you owe them $1 million. So they'll take your 10 cent. You can sell 4, 5, 6, 8, $9 million worth of records, but because you only get 10 cent, you still owe them X amount of money, and it's such a ripoff. They're making so much money off of football that they can look at it like, you know what? We're making this money collectively off of college sports, not just off of football.
Right.
And putting in a separate profit margin. Like, oh, we made this much money because of football. Instead of saying, you know what, we made this much money at college basketball or college sports. Let's sacrifice a few shekels here to get the women's college basketball game, because they would be I won't say the first, but probably the only. If you're ESPN, you're the only ones putting. If you're putting $10 million towards women's college basketball, you're probably the only television network putting that much money.
But that's the point.
Whatever that number is.
Yeah, but that's the point.
But if you're making, if I make 1.2, if I make $800 million off of college football, then I can break off 50 for women's college basketball.
But that's the point that I was making, because I need to go back and look at these contracts. But for me, my point of the conversation was, unless there's something contractually, what's stopping Fox or CBS from doing what you're saying as well? You know what I mean?
Because
so it doesn't
no
just
one's making any money, so there's no price point to negotiate.
No. But that's the point, because right now, when we look at ESPN, or I'm sorry, Fox, for example, as far as like their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their TV schedule or whatever, they're basically a bunch of ESPN copycats filled with former ESPN personalities for the most part.
Their television shows are pretty
trying to create their own ESPN. They have their college football contracts with the Big Ten and the Big 12.
But those are huge.
I know. Men's college basketball, they have the Big East, Big 12, and the Big 10, because we were talking about the new tournament, the College Crown, that they're trying to start next year. But my point was, if I'm one of these channels, if there's nothing contractually that says ESPN is the sole home of women's college basketball, then what's precluding me from getting in a table? Because I'm trying to be...
Because ESPN has to show Fox that I can make money. I, as a channel, can make money off of it. If ESPN doesn't say, I'm going to... I was talking about this week at work. There's this video of a guy on like a mountainside in Colorado dancing crazy by himself. And it's all about how to start a movement. And he's dancing crazy by himself at some concert. He's doing like this crazy dance. He's flailing his arms. And then a second person comes over. Once the second person comes over, and then 3, 4, 5, 8, 15, 30, 40, everybody joins after the second person does it. That's why when you pass the motion, the parliamentary procedures is like, I'm presenting this motion. I'm permit motion to veto Michael Wilson off his seat in Congress, whatever it is. You need a second person to get the rally going.
But as a business,
ESPN,
you also take risk.
But that's the thing. I need to see that ESPN
I don't need to see
little money.
I don't need to see that.
What? That's the thing.
Well, why would I
need to see their plan.
If I believe in something, why would I be reactive instead of proactive?
Because when it comes to the money, like I said, back to the record label thing, I have this artist. This artist has made me $90 million. I got another artist that kind of sounds like the previous artist. They don't look at the fact that this artist made them 90 million and this new person, maybe you need someone to be like, yo, this person could also do it. You
But
need
that's
that
different.
second wave.
That's
You
different.
need
This
that
isn't a
second, you need
startup.
somebody to second that. You need somebody to understand, like, yo, we can do this as well.
No, because like so Fox being
Because ESPN is making their money. That's why they have the women's tournament. They are making a profit. They're making a profit.
CBS is successful.
CBS has to look at the CBS
CBS
has
is
to look at the
successful with the
ESPN
Masters,
women's
right?
tournament and saying, hey, ESPN is making money at the tournament with the women. Why
CBS
can't
CBS
we
is
do
famous
this?
for
And
the
they're making,
Masters, right?
but I think those are like deals, like certain
No, I
channels.
know, but
certain
I know. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, but that's not like Fox or ESPN or whoever saying, yo, we gotta get golf because it's working on CBS. You know what I'm saying is, as a business.
But ABC is a golf tournament. They have them. That's what I'm saying. They've done
This
this.
is a debate. This is not the Rutley show. Like, chill out. Like, hold on. You know what I'm saying? Like what I'm saying though is that if I'm Fox or whoever, and this is this hot wave going on, and I believe in it. That's the first step. You got to believe in it, right? Before you can do anything else. You know what I mean? Why?
I'm just doing research so I can. I'm gonna say yes, and I'm not gonna say yes, but
yeah. But if you can, because like I said, I don't know the contractual status as far as if ESPN has an exclusive deal. So if they don't, what I'm saying is, why would I not become or try to become the brand of while it's hot, and I could put that funding that you're talking about into it, and I can reap some of the benefit, if not most of the benefit as well, because ESPN has to wait until March. They have to wait until the tournament to get that cash flow coming in from the NCAA tournament. So with your idea of let's have this weekly Tuesday game or whatever the case may be, you could have Big East Sunday for all I care. You know what I mean? Where the whole day is just ESPN on Fox Sports or college basketball on Fox Sports 1 or whatever the case may be. If I believe in this, I can promote Juju. I can promote whoever these people are. I don't need to wait for ESPN to do that. I can take what ESPN has done already and I can build upon that because once it takes off, if it takes off in the way that we want it to, ESPN already got it. You ain't getting in there.
Yeah, but okay.
There's a yeah, but there it is.
Yes, and I apologize for saying yeah, but yes, and if we look at the men's sports and the breakdown, I used to buy a lot of jerseys, like football jerseys, authentic jerseys, whatever the case may be. Probably like 03 when we deployed to Qatar.
Yeah.
Reebok had the NBA jersey deal. No, Reebok had the football deal.
Yeah, the NFL, yeah.
And the hat deal. They had the NFL hats. New Era didn't make the hats. Reebok made the jerseys and the hats. And at the same time, I believe like Reebok had the basketball jerseys. Somebody else had a different jersey. Baseball had the jerseys. New Era kind of monopolized the baseball hat deal.
Right.
With the four major tournaments of golf, it's Golf Channel, CBS, NBC, ESPN. It's deliberately divided because it was making money for everyone. So now it just rotates. So right now, Nike has the NBA deals because when LeBron first went to Miami, he has a Nike deal. Adidas had the 5-year contract with the NBA to make the jerseys. So a lot of his Heat gear, he was wearing Adidas Heat gear. You still wear your Nike shoes. In that same time frame, the NFL had like the Reebok jersey deal. No, like a different deal. So they were able to figure out how we all divided this up. So if you're looking at college sports, we talk about CBS is basically SEC. The Big Ten was Fox. The Big 12 was ESPN. Uh, and then they mixed it up a little bit with the ACC and then the Saturday night games. So it can be divided. My thing is start small. Start with the teams that we know. We
Right.
know UConn. We know I don't need everybody else to branch out and be a part of it. I just need as ESPN because ESPN, I
Well,
have the women's
I'm
tournament.
not looking at this from ESPN's angle. I'm
But
looking
that's
at
the
this
thing.
from the
You
college
can't look at
basketball angle.
everybody doesn't need to be involved in this angle because they're not involved right now. The only way to keep the conversation going, because ESPN probably has the most talk shows that talk about
Definitely.
sports, and in their podcast affiliations and radio affiliations, so forth and so on. So ESPN's kind of already monopolized the sports conversation realm as is. So my piece is for ESPN to say, we are going to do this and sacrifice the 2.5 viewers every Tuesday. And then after they do this successfully for a year or two, then you'll get the conversation where CBS can get involved. Then you'll have the conversation where NBC can be
And then
involved.
when
Right now,
ESPN doesn't do it,
well, if ESPN doesn't do it, they're solely relying on the revenue they get from the women's tournament because
right,
we all love March Madness. So if
right.
you want to monopolize on the fact that you have March Madness, it's like if you got a truck full of Thin Mints, you sell them all year long. You don't just wait till Girl Scouts selling cookies and they're selling all kinds of cookies. Like I got a truck full of Thin Mints. I'm selling them all right now. These are the hottest cookies. I'm selling them all right now. They have the path because they have the most to gain from television success of women's college basketball because they have the NCAA tournament. We were talking about it earlier. You're trying to figure out what channel had the men's national championship game. So far, I've streamed games. I've watched it on HBO Max. I watched it on Paramount, and I think I was I in the barbershop watching the
There was
game.
some on TBS, there were some on True TV.
Some on True TV, and I watched them in different formats. There's only ESPN for the women's game. So if I start right now promoting Juju, whatever incoming freshman, whatever returning senior, whatever coach we like, whatever new coach we like, Don Staley is a national champion, undefeated team. I galvanize because you don't need much. Like I said, you only need a second person to start your revolution. But you got to be willing to go out there and you got to be out there to flail by yourself. You got to be willing as a network to say, you know what? We are going to highlight these because you hire these women because Donna Taurasi, Sue Bird, they're always doing like their podcast pundit, a simulcast similar to like the Manning cast.
Yeah.
So they're doing that. So if you're willing to do that from March through April, just do it all year and take the good and the bad because it's not as if you're going to lose that much money if it doesn't work out.
Right.
That was my whole piece earlier. Is like I don't need everyone to want to talk about college basketball. I just need to get these few teams in everyone's face because we'll talk about it. If it's competitive, it's compelling. We
But it's
talked about
not.
it 3 times.
That's the
We talked
problem.
about it 3 times in a week.
That's the problem. That it's
Think
not.
about this. Think about this. Me and you've had this podcast since
January last year. Yeah.
January last year. Now, how many topics have we done on Steph Curry or LeBron James or Michael Jordan? Probably the 3 most polarizing guys as far as conversations. Like just with topics.
Maybe 4?
Maybe 4. And that was probably associated with the playoff matchup they had. We haven't had any arbitrary conversation about whose era is it, who's better, who's the GOAT. We haven't had any of those conversations. Those conversations dominate the airways. And it's getting boring. It's getting boring in our group chats. It's getting boring in our sports groups. It's getting boring to the point where we discovered it was boring last year. I had to get it off my chest about let's stop doing it. But over the last week and a half, you and I have had 4 very in-depth 1 to 2 hour conversations about women's college basketball.
Right.
So I think it can be done because it is competitive. You just got to get a formula that continues to fuel that competitive aspect of it. That can still kind of garner the conversation. It might be tough trying to do it now with football and everything else, but I think you can sprinkle it in.
No, I definitely think that you can. I just think that
you want competition from the other channels to make it more riveting.
the
Whereas
public,
I want
the public
ESPN
has
to put more effort into being the.
I think
I
the
want
public has
ESPN to be the guy flailing in the field, and with the hopes that somebody else will come along, because it won't happen. If you think about it,
the
it won't
public has
happen.
to want it. The public has to want it. You know what I mean? Like not wait
But the
for
first guy got to be
not
got to
wait
do
for
this.
the public needs to want it, not wait for it to be delivered is the point. So what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So like we talked about it. You know, you had the Candace Parkers, the Skylar Diggins, the Rebecca Lobos, so on and so forth. You had these ladies come through and they laid the groundwork for what Caitlin and Angel are able to take advantage
But
of.
if we had to think about it, what channel was that probably? That probably was on ESPN.
You
I
know,
don't think CBS Sports really existed then. I don't think Fox Sports was a big. I
no,
think it
Fox
was
wasn't around then
ESPN.
for sure.
As far as that,
Also,
sports
but also,
information.
I couldn't tell you because I wasn't necessarily watching back then. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
you watched Rebecca Lobo, you
yeah, I
watched
knew
Don
who these
Bailey,
people
Paul
were.
Paul. We
Well,
watched when the
I
WNBA was
watched Dawn
started.
Staley just because I had a
Because
crush on her.
yeah,
That's how it
because
all
she's light
started.
skinned. I know, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I mean. And but from there, you know, I knew
I got a
Tennessee.
Candace Parker T-shirt on right now.
I knew
I wore Sue
Tennessee.
Bird last week. Sue Bird's probably one of my favorite basketball players. Rebecca Lobo was the same way. I loved UConn. UConn was always on TV. UConn, that like when the WNBA started, they put a WNBA team in Connecticut because of UConn. So I'm saying, so it's like I think they're the
Well, not
Connecticut Sun,
really. The team moved from Orlando to Connecticut.
the Connecticut Sun. Like wow, like
Yeah,
there's nothing else in Connecticut.
they moved
Give
from
it to
Orlando,
Connecticut is
so
awful.
they weren't an OG. You know what I mean? But the overall point being, you know,
The
is
fact
that
that you know that is mind blowing. By the way, I just want to throw that out there. That's another Mike. I cannot believe he even knew that.
but you know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so you know, Caitlin and Angel fell into our laps.
Hold on,
Nobody,
my phone's about to die. I'm grabbing another charger. Keep going. I'll be right back.
nobody did anything extensive to get Caitlin and Angel on our screens. They just were undeniable. You know, so unless there's more personalities to build off of, I don't know how far we get. You know, we might need another Caitlin. And what I mean by that is not necessarily even from a play style standpoint, but we might need another white player that plays for some school that makes a run to the Elite Eight or the Final Four, clip somebody along the way. Like it has to be organic in that way, along with, hey, there's this freshman at USC that is going to challenge Caitlin Clark's records. There's this freshman coming in from wherever that we project is going to be even better than her. And then that person has to live up to the hype too. So, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, you could put UConn on TV and show them beating somebody 91-37. You could put South Carolina on TV and have them beat somebody 104-42. But I don't know how much of that is going to hold somebody's attention. You know, so maybe women's college basketball, it starts at the ground levels to where obviously other teams need to step up. Because like we were talking about this, UConn hasn't won the national title since 2016. You know, and in that national title game, they beat Syracuse. We saw Stanford and Arizona play for a national title. We saw Baylor and Notre Dame play for a national title. So even though we grew up knowing UConn and Tennessee, other teams have stepped up. Just like now, right? When we were growing up, it was Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky. Now UConn is out here about to pass Duke in national titles.
No, they got like 20. They got like 25, 26 years of success. Yeah, with UConn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
that kind of catapulted off the backs of the women. The
Yeah,
women were more successful first.
yeah, and but now, like, where we are, so I don't know if LSU has enough cachet right now that without Angel, they're going to maintain the number that they got to
But
this year,
but that's the thing. The cachet is fabrication. It's marketing and fabricating. We
which
could
is
talk
not
about
being done.
that team in
Did you,
Dallas
did you
with the
see
star
more
in their
Angel
helmet.
Reese? Did you see
The
more
reason
Angel
that
Reese?
the reason the Dallas Cowboys are in the NFC East is because their previous owner wanted them to play most of their games in the Eastern time zone or against teams from the Eastern time zone because that was where the most people were. That was articulated and it was a fabricated plan to make that work.
And
Their success, they've had some great runs but they haven't had success recently. They're still a good team. They're still a winning culture. Shout out to Cups.
but
Uh,
that's what I'm saying. But did
but
you see
but
Angel
but like I
Reese
said,
more on ESPN, or did you see her more on YouTube or something
I
like that?
saw Angel Reese more on social media, which then led me and you to have multiple conversations
No,
about.
no, but wait. That's the point, though. Like, you're talking about the fabrication. I saw her for whatever reason when I log in to Sports Reports Disordered YouTube page. Angel Reese was just there every single morning without fail. She was there. You know what I mean? So, like, that's my
But she's the
story.
P word. You ready?
You-
Polarizing.
but that's my story. You know what I mean? What I'm saying, though,
That's
is
what they
that
did with Bird and Magic.
what
They didn't supposed to play those. Lakers and Celtics weren't supposed to play those many games in that fledgling time of the
but that's
early
what I'm
NBA
saying.
after NBA.
That's what I'm saying.
It
There's a
was
bit of luck
fabricated,
involved. There's a bit of luck involved
but it
because
was also a
they
bit of a
played.
fabrication. Like they
I
put
know,
deliberate.
but that fabrication may not have taken off the same way if they hadn't already played in the national title game in college. And they just happened to come out the same year, so you had that to build off of. So with Angel and
The
Caitlin,
Kobe LeBron puppets. Remember the Kobe LeBron
yeah,
puppets? And they wanted it to happen so
but it
badly.
didn't.
It didn't happen.
You
But
know,
that didn't make us not watch Kobe or not watch
well,
LeBron.
that's because
Sometimes
we
you
already
gotta
had
take
that
that leap.
buy-in with the NBA. It's not the same. You know what I mean? Like
I
the
still think we have
WNBA,
I don't think there's a limited buy-in
the
with women's college
WNBA,
basketball.
the WNBA has an opportunity now.
There's limited buy-in with the WNBA, I'll give you that.
It is, but I'm
Without a
saying,
doubt.
but the WNBA now has the ability, depending on what teams Angel and Caitlin go to, they have the ability now to
I don't
have
know
their
if the
magic year on.
WNBA is properly focused. I just
I don't
feel
know either, but I'm just throwing that out there.
I feel
But as
like
far as
I
college
saw something
basketball
once as far
now,
as like their revenue, like I guess percentage wise, they get more money. They just don't generate enough revenue. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they're focused on how to get the money that they need. And I saw a clip from Dana Taurasi, and what she said, she was like, "This country has a fascination with the young female athlete that fades away when they become professionals. It's like we love the young
and that's
gymnasts,
what I'm saying.
we
They
love
got to
the young
advertise
tennis
on the
player,
flip side.
but that's the thing. I don't. I'm not sure if ESPN. I'm because like as far as this conversation, I'm not really speaking for ESPN's WNBA coverage. I'm just speaking as far as like
No,
their
I know,
college
and
basketball
that's what I'm
coverage.
saying. As we sit here on April 8th, right now, as we sit here on April 8th, what college basketball game or rivalry or whatever are we looking forward to next season?
I don't know if we're looking forward to much, but I'll tell you this:
That's what I'm saying.
the men's game is on right now, and U of I have talked for over 2 hours tonight about women's college
Well, that's
basketball
because it's a
because
17-point game right now.
it's an interesting conversation. The conversation about women's college basketball is
No,
interesting.
but the point is that the point I'm getting
You
to
want to
though,
see where the
is
success comes from.
next year, right? It's April
I
8th
think
right
the
now.
grassroots parts come from. I think the grassroots effort comes from someone has to
It's
sacrifice
check it out.
the
Check it out.
bottom line to
It's,
get it going.
it's April 8th right now, right?
Correct.
We're watching the men's national title game right now. I'm already looking forward to Coach Cal going to Rupp Arena next year. I'm already looking forward to Duke versus Carolina next year. I'm already looking forward to Syracuse and Georgetown next year. Even though they're both bad, that's
But
just a part of my childhood.
But
You know
is
what I mean?
that a byproduct of you just kind of checking out of this season? Or is that because those particular teams did anything to garner that attention?
I'm just saying that women's college basketball doesn't have that. Like Duke and Carolina, we're here for that game without even knowing who's on the roster. We just know that it's Duke and Carolina. You know what I mean? Like with Coach.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to get you. I'm not. I or any. I don't think women's college basketball.
I'm just trying to find the angle.
I would not start at the apex of the entertainment aspect of your sport. Women's college basketball cannot enter conversations and thoughts and brainstorming sessions starting tomorrow. If they had a brainstorming meeting on Zoom or wherever tomorrow,
they had a whole year
and say we need to be as impactful in the college basketball landscape as Duke and North Carolina.
No, I'm not saying that per se, but what I'm saying
no.
They had a whole year to build off of Caitlin and Angel,
and they did.
Right. But what's the next step? Next step?
You gotta let them get there first. That's the problem with sports.
I don't gotta let it get there. I don't gotta let it get there. We're a podcast. We're a podcast. We project.
I'm projecting.
You ain't projecting shit. You give me ideas. You ain't projecting nothing.
That's a projection.
Give me a projection. What are you looking forward to next college basketball season? What are you looking forward to?
Basketball season, I'm looking at all the female college coaches that we know, all the teams that are good. They never fail.
How many coaches you know?
How many coaches? I don't know that many, but I do know that Iowa's a good team. I know USC's a good team. I know South Carolina's a good team.
Iowa's going to continue to be a good team.
I don't know that part. I'm not Nostradamus. Shout out. I'm simply saying that it cannot be just expectation meet standard from previous years of my childhood. We cannot keep falling to this fallacy that UNC and Duke hasn't even really been that great of a sports. How many draft picks have come out of the top 10 from the two schools? Not many in the recent years.
That's the point, though. It doesn't even matter.
But that's the thing, because you don't want to see anything else, because we've been inundated and ingratiated to the fact that Duke and UNC is a rivalry that we've known since our childhood.
Right. And what I'm asking you is what college basketball game? I'm not telling you. Hold on. I'm not telling you. I'm not asking you. Which college basketball game is on the level of Duke and North Carolina? I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, as now women's college basketball has been in our foresight for the last 2 years. Going into year 3 of this.
Is it really?
Hold on. You can't answer the question before I ask it. Hold on. You can't answer the question before I ask it. You know what I'm saying? Like what I'm saying is before, what is the moment next year? Okay, let me rephrase it a different way then, since you want to answer it all.
You just gotta give you a good question.
No, I don't, because I'm asking you the question, and before I can even
answer your way.
No, I'm gonna ask it a different way. What do you expect to see? What do you want to see from women's college basketball leading to the tournament next year?
So the build up after their season's already started, or
like taking what we've seen these last 2 years, let me see. How do you want, or what
do I expect?
What is the big point? What is the big point of the season that you're like, next year I can't wait for this to happen, or for this game to happen, or for this moment, or I want to see this team next year?
Okay, I'll be honest, I can't I can't say I have a galvanizing moment that I'm looking forward to because I didn't grow up expecting things from the future women's college basketball season. So I'm not going to just give you an answer that
Right,
sounds good.
right.
So, but what I am expecting from women's college basketball is South Carolina coming in undefeated, pretty much dominant. I think they had the one buzzer beater against Tennessee where they didn't guard Cardoza, and she hit the three in the SEC tournament, but they went undefeated. They beat essentially the juggernaut Caitlin Clark, who will be probably the number one pick in the WNBA draft. So I think that's that's like a multiple path conversation. I don't feel like there's going to be like great rivalries. I just think that this is an opportunity to showcase whatever you have. I'm not saying I know what that is because I'm not an insider in the women's college basketball, nor am I saying that you looking forward to Duke UNC men's basketball is taken away from women's college basketball. What I want from women's college basketball is for them to now take whatever momentum they got from last April to now and build on it. But the only way to build on it is to come up with something different than the men because the men are locked in.
Right.
I know I made like Five Guys burgers, but McDonald's is on damn near every corner. Five Guys is like $25 for 2 burgers. I don't always want to do that, but I'll go to McDonald's and get a $2, 2 for 3, 2 for 4 because it's McDonald's. It's a staple of my childhood. It's a staple of every neighborhood you live in. I live in Jersey. There's a Wawa on every corner. I'm not going to Quick Check for a Philly cheesesteak. If I'm going to get it from a gas station, I'm just grab it from Wawa, get some gas, press on my day because that's a staple of this environment that I grew up in. With the women's college basketball, I do not levy expectations on them that we get from the men because as men, we have dedicated a lot of time, money, and energy into building up these sports. The women's game has not gotten that same level of dedication. And because it doesn't look the same, it is not the same. It's not as exciting. It's not as exhilarating. It's not a knock on them. It's just not the same. Right. It's the same way minor league baseball and these minor league football leagues that pop up here and there and arena football. Arena football has been around for 25, 30 years. I don't know how many people walking around in arena league football jerseys. I got a couple of Matt Ryan jerseys in there,
but I don't have Blaze jersey.
I don't have a guy named Matthew Charles, the quarterback of the Philadelphia Arena Cats in my. But I watched the football game if it came on. But if you put actual effort into making sure I saw it every single week, and then someone talked about it either on the front end or the back end, that's all I'm saying for women's college basketball because we have such a narrow scope because I'm watching the game on an iPad. I can get clips from you of whatever happens on my phone. So you got to do a little more. You're never gonna be able to compete with the precipice that is UNC and Duke.
Right.
But you got to be able to do something.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to go into off seasons looking forward to women's college basketball. But if you present me with something that's interesting I can follow, i.e., what we got from last year and the last few weeks, I'll rock with it.
So what I'm looking forward to is, like I said, Cardoso's gone. So this is going to be Fuwali and Tessa Johnson's team, at South Carolina. I'm looking for Flo J to take that next step to not necessarily fill Angel's shoes, but I'm looking at her as like that new leader, I guess, of LSU. I'm looking forward to Juju, but also UCLA was a 2 seed this year, went 27-7. So is there a potential UCLA USC shift? Who controls the West Coast coming down the road? You know what I mean? Like, as far as, obviously, like you said, not Duke, North Carolina, but is this a game that, with the two teams where they are right now, getting better, is that a rivalry or a game that I can care about that doesn't involve UConn, South Carolina, so on and so forth. Like, can I get a third team?
Because are you focused because you are a rivalries guy and
Well,
you want rivalries, or because I look at it like I want entertainment. I don't need the rivalry. I need the entertainment. I think you look at it as intrinsic core, because we talked about this with college sports. You're a rivalry guy through and through.
Well, I just think
am
entertainment. I think that's what makes college sports. That's what separates college sports from one of the things that separates college sports from the pros. Like we talked about.
Like I said, I think we're saying the same thing. I think we're just reading different books.
No, that's what I told you. We got the same goal. We want the same thing. It's not a hostile argument. Like we just, you know what I mean? Like it's just that we just see different paths to get to the same place. That's all it is. Like, you might want to take more one-way streets than me, because the quickest way is a straight line.
Whereas, I'm taking the loop. I'm a loop guy. I don't want
to get up on the turnpike. You know what I'm saying?
One-way streets. I don't want to deal with the bums trying to watch my windshield. Yo, give me the loop.
Trying to get up on the turnpike. You know what I'm saying?
I keep the gas full. I'll take the loop. I'll go around.
No. But I just think that college sports are or rivalries are a staple of college sports. Like I don't know if college football, because that is my baby. I don't know if college football would be what it is if Florida and Florida State didn't play each other. If USC and Notre Dame didn't play each other. Like I don't know if
we're seeing that slowly with the lack of Utah BYU. We don't have.
But that doesn't register. That registers for us. That registers for us because we lived in Utah, but people don't care about Utah and BYU nationally.
Yeah, but the people who care about the Holy War,
and now they do because they're in the same conference now.
So now they're going to get
it. They're going to play every year. Yeah,
sometimes we hear these numbers. If you think about, I remember being in the barbershop in 2015, and my son showed me an Instagram post of all the Marvel and DC movies that were coming out from 2015 to 2020.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting here in 2024 thinking about man, that was 50 movies that came out. Mm-hmm. So I think we hear this number Texas A&M and Texas aren't going to play each other just hypothetically in 2020.
Yeah. Right.
But in 2029 comes around and we'll have two games and all we'll think about is a game from 2028 and a game from 2029. We won't think about the fact that 25, 26, and 27 they didn't play each other.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I couldn't imagine college football without Texas, Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't imagine college basketball without Kentucky, Louisville. That's just a part of it. Whereas in professional sports, I think it's more player driven, especially basketball. It's more like Anthony Edwards versus Jokic tonight versus Denver versus Minnesota. So it's not the same, and that's the way that the NBA
and with free agency and
they move so much.
We've seen, especially with, I think a lot of it, we could boil it down to money as we even with college basketball.
Right.
You have a guy like Saquon Barkley. Maybe he could have got $40 million from the Bills, but he took 37 to go to Philly. I'm not sure if that's the conversation, but
right.
If he takes 37 to go to Philly, the Giants got to see him twice a year because they didn't want to pay him.
Right.
What's the guy? Jadarius Smith left Green Bay, went to Minnesota. You're gonna see me 2 times a year.
Aaron Jones.
So you have those kind of conversations and decision making.
Just like for me, right? For me, in the NBA this year, the way that it's lined up right now, we would get Clippers and Mavericks in the first round.
That's a pseudo rivalry. They've gone back and forth.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So to me, it's already entertaining.
Is that we don't look at the rivalries entertainment because we being the pundits look at the championship as the end all be all.
Right.
And that's the standard is can we just watch Luka go at Kawhi and Paul George again?
Right. And see, for me, I'm like, Luka was undermanned against the Clippers, averaging 44 against them. Now he got a squad with him. You know what I'm saying? So now I want to see this series on some, now most things are created equal, play ball. You know what I mean? Or
squad, Clippers a little older.
Or for example, Embiid just came back. So if Philly somehow ends up with the 8 seed, plays Boston in the first round, we got a conference finals level series in the first round.
Yeah, but if you look at if
So
you
the
think
entertainment
about
is
that,
there, but it's still better.
but that kind of framework is hard to manipulate, and you
It
can't manage
is, it
it
is,
that.
but it takes some of that for these things to get off the ground in that way. Like I said, like the Magic Bird thing they played in the college. That was just luck that it happened that way.
I'm not sure how much luck was involved, because how did the flashy Showtime guy go to LA and the blue collar white guy go to Boston? I think it's a
How
little
did
bit
Patrick
influenced.
Ewing get to the
Very
Knicks?
similar to Patrick Ewing going to the
Yeah,
Knicks. Like how we
yeah.
think, yo, I was literally gonna say that.
You know what I mean? But the point being is that even if it was manufactured or whatever you want to call it, the point being is that that had to happen. I think that the college part had to happen for it to affect the NBA the way that it did because they had that history already.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of
so
college, I wanna shout out to my fellow host 25, who literally said, "Yeah, I think Zach Edey do his thing, but I don't know how many guys are coming along for the ride." He has 33 points,
yeah, the rest
and
of the
rest
team
of
got
the team
23.
nine for 27 for 23
Well,
points.
it's
So
because
Mike is correct again.
we didn't get to talk about it, but what I was
Yeah,
going to say was, what concerned me about Purdue for this game is that they're little. Like, so they play the three guards. Their biggest guard is 6'4". UConn's smallest guard is 6'4". So, like you're already at a disadvantage because they're in the passing lanes. You already got to worry about Klingon blocking your shot in the paint. But I also got Tristan Newton and Steph Castle who are bigger than you as guards. That
on the wing
yeah. So
with
so
the entry pass and everything else.
yeah, so that was my concern because Klingon is only a sophomore, so he's probably not ready for Zach Edey. Just on some Zach Edey's been around 4 or 5 years, like XYZ, bigger body, all that stuff. But
Basically,
UConn had
played a
the
year
advantage
play.
everywhere else. You know what I mean? So that's why I picked UConn to win. And if this holds up the way the score is right now, UConn would win each game in the last two NCAA tournaments during their repeat by at least 13 points. So that's some food for thought right there. But hey, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, he is the even kill. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight, Mr. Logic. I am your unorthodox but not southpaw statistician. 2-5. Tell your grandma about us, like, subscribe. We'll be back on Thursday for some more intense conversation. Thank you for listening. Sports Reports is ordered.
Hit
We
the
love you,
subscribe button. Hit the bell. Tell your grandma about us. Thanks for all the people who watched tonight.
Peace. See you Thursday.